September 1st edition of the Carolina Weather Video. Meteorological fall has arrived, and I don't know about you, but I'm ready for some cooler temperatures, and it's on the way. We'll talk about that. But obviously the big topic of conversation is Hurricane Earl. We'll get into Earl and the rest of the tropics first here on today's edition of the Carolina Weather Video. There's the broad overview this morning. Earl, still a Category 3 hurricane at the point I'm cutting this video. Behind Earl, you have Fiona. And it is interesting to note that the distance between Earl and Fiona is increasing. So that odds of Fiona getting absorbed up into Earl, the odds of that happening is decreasing. And then out east of Fiona, well east of Fiona, you have our next tropical disturbance, which stands a decent chance of becoming our next classified tropical system. Now this is the water vapor imagery of Earl this morning. A couple of things to note. Earl's been battling about 15 to 20 knots of southwesterly shear. That's why you see a lot better outflow here in the northeastern part of the hurricane than opposed to the southwest. And also of note here on the water vapor imagery, all that dry air that's been around here and into the western Atlantic, that's gotten wrapped around the southern side of the hurricane. Now it hasn't really impacted the inner core. And if Earl can keep it from getting ingested into the core of the hurricane, it'll be able to maintain itself. But if we were to see that dry air get wrapped toward the center, that'd cause a marked decrease in Earl's intensity. That's something to watch. There's the computer model plot. Still pretty good agreement. This is going to pass pretty close to the Outer Banks late Thursday night into Friday morning. This is the intensity guidance. And Earl there initially at pretty strong Category 3 intensity. And it should stay, again, assuming it can fight off that dry air, it should stay in that general area in terms of intensity for the next 24 to 36 hours before we begin to see an extratropical transition takes place after that. Quickly want to show you Fiona's model charts, and I think you can take these with a grain of salt. Any and all options on the board with Fiona. Let me show you a couple of select models. This is all the way out at 90 hours, so Earl has swapped over to a non-tropical type of low pressure that's really pounding parts of southeastern Canada at that point. No sign of Fiona, but this is the system behind it. All right, let's switch on over now to, there we go. Let's switch on over now to another model here. This model specifically is the GFDL. I wanted to show you it, showing its closest pass to the North Carolina Outer Banks. Still has it as a very, very powerful hurricane at that point in time. So the general idea here for the North Carolina Outer Banks is this. Some rainy, squally weather looking like a good bet anywhere from later Thursday, especially Thursday night, and then ending at some point as we get into the day Friday. Winds will probably be to hurricane force, and the farther west that center of Earl tracks, the more significant the winds will be. Probably the biggest overall problem with Earl here is going to be beach erosion and a lot of significant surf. We're probably talking 10, 15, maybe 20-foot waves very close to shore. You combine that with an easterly wind, generally speaking, all day tomorrow into tomorrow night, and I think there's going to be some beach erosion issues, especially in those more delicate Outer Bank areas for sure. But then things begin to improve. For the Labor Day weekend, still a lot of lingering rip current issues, but the surf will gradually diminish as we get towards Saturday and Sunday. And we'll just have to keep an eye down the road for Fiona and maybe that system behind it as well. A lot of uncertainty there. Let's go to focusing on our weather. This is the upper air chart off the GFS today. Still going to be a pretty hot day. We're talking highs well up into the 90s again today. There's Earl as we get into tomorrow night, but notice what's happening here. Very significant trough digging into the Midwest. That's what's going to turn Earl gradually away from the coast, and we are in the grips of that trough as we get into the weekend. That's going to mean a big-time cool-down for the Labor Day weekend, but we're going to warm back up toward the middle part of next week. Probably some 90s returning, at least briefly, toward Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Here it is on the modeling in terms of the surface features. Today, a dry day, sunshine, very low humidity. You know the drill by now. Highs in the 90s. Tomorrow, we're looking at high temperatures in the lower side of the 90s. And I think anywhere really right outside of the immediate coastal plain will not see any rain from Earl. So as you go through the GFS here, notice rain nowhere near the I-85 corridor. As we go through tomorrow night and then into Friday morning, Earl begins to pull away. Friday really looking like a hot day, right behind Earl and ahead of our next cold front. So we're looking at mid-90s, maybe even some upper 90s for highs on Friday. But then the big change happens. The cold front moves through Friday night. We're talking 80s for highs on Saturday, Sunday, probably Labor Day itself. And get this, Sunday and Monday, many Piedmont lows well down into the 50s. That'll feel very, very nice for sure. But, again, I mentioned that warm-up as we get toward Tuesday and then especially Wednesday of next week. We'll see our highs, at least temporarily, popping back up into the 90s. All right, so that's it for this action-packed edition of the Carolina Weather Video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day here on this Wednesday, and God bless.